If you take a look at the corporations, let's say Exxon, every one is something like Standard Oil of California or of New Jersey or something else. And the reason is because they have state charters.
Right.
That's the way a corporation is established. Corporation is an entity established by state power, primarily federal power, but within the jurisdiction of a state, where they're given a charter. And if you look at the history of corporations, say through the you go back to say 1900 or something, 1800, a corporation was just a group of people who got together, and say a municipality that got together and decided we want to build a bridge over this river or something, and they incorporated and were given a charter by the state to build a bridge over the river, and once they built the bridge, it was the end of it. That was what a corporation was. Through the 19th century, mostly the courts, it wasn't really legislation, the courts gradually extended the rights and privileges of corporations. Finally, about a century ago, they were given extraordinary privileges, mostly by lawyers, legal authorities, court decisions, and so on. But they're still chartered by states. I mean, the reason that there are so many that are incorporated in New Jersey and Delaware is that by the late 19th century, the courts had decided that corporations didn't have to have a fixed purpose, and they could buy into other corporations, and they were given all sorts of other,
The rights
gifts.
of persons.
Yeah, all kind of. That came later. That was the early 19th century. Yeah, they got the rights of persons, and beyond the rights of persons, and so on. But as all of this took place, some states, like New Jersey and Delaware in particular, realized that they could make a killing just in corporate taxes by getting the corporations to move their offices there. So move them out of New York across the river, and you get a lot of extra benefits. So you get Standard Oil of New Jersey, and a ton of corporations in Delaware. They're kind of a race to the bottom. The fact that there were states competing to get tax profits and other, just employment and so on, led to a kind of race to the bottom, which is still going on, incidentally. So take, say, Massachusetts. One of the big employers here is Fidelity, big financial institution. The state gives them all kind of gifts, but Rhode Island's now giving them bigger gifts. They're going to move over the border to Rhode Island, which means losing tens of thousands of jobs here. Other corporations are, I forget the name of it, but one green technology corporation was just given a very substantial taxpayer gifts in Massachusetts, but they decided to pack up and move to China, where it's cheaper and workers can be gotten.
Evergreen Solar.
What was it?
Evergreen Solar?
Yeah, Evergreen, right. So that goes, now it's international, but it used to be in the States, but they still have state charters, which means that in principle the citizens of the state can take away the charter. But there are even less radical moves that can be made, which could be significant. I mean, you can take a look at standard economics textbooks, the kind that you read in graduate courses in economics on corporations, which point out that it's just a court decision, which isn't written in stone, that corporation management has to be answerable to stockholders. I mean, part of Anglo-American corporate law, just established by the courts, no legislation, is that the managers of a corporation must dedicate themselves to shareholder profit. That's a lethal principle. That's the kind of principle that's going to destroy the environment and everything else for all kind of reasons. So it's a really lethal principle. But it's just a court decision, can be overturned. And as the textbooks point out, you could change corporate law so that corporations are responsible to what are called stakeholders. Stakeholders means the workforce and the community. That their legal responsibility is for the benefit of the workforce and the community. There's nothing in economic principle that tells you you can't do that. It's just a court decision that you can't do it. Well, that's a pretty straightforward move. I think it'd probably have enormous popular support. And it's even short of taking away the charter. but which is another step. So there's plenty of anti-corporate moves that could be made, and they're kind of like right on the surface, like most things about human affairs. It's a matter of getting over this kind of barrier of not seeing what's around us. Kind of like the Galilean revolution. You got to see what's around you before, when you do, you find lots of steps can be taken. There are small efforts to do this on a national scale. There's one organization called, I forget what it stands for, POCLAD, P-O-C-L-A-D. Anybody remember? You can find it on the internet.
P-O-C-L-A-D?
Yeah, it's not a lot of people, but it's a small number. I think it's organized by a guy named Richard Grossman, if I remember, it has a lot of publications, which are pretty sensible ones on questions of this kind. Does some organizing. There are actually parts of the country, like some area in rural Pennsylvania, I think, which has just rejected all corporations, says you can't come in.